Hello, everybody. Welcome to our post-daily news update for Wednesday, November the 10th. I am John Pollock alongside Wai Ting. Another afternoon chat. How are you doing, Wai?
Doing pretty good, John. How are you?
I'm doing well. I dove into a review of The Eternals this morning.
Okay. And?
I had many questions about Celestials and hands. It seems it's a very complicated listen when you have not seen the movie. I will say that.
Yeah, I'll bet. I mean, I imagine it might be a bit complicated even if you have seen the movie. So I don't know. I appreciate you listening. And maybe eventually you'll catch the movie.
Maybe. Well, once it's readily available, I might seek it out. It will be one I will stash away in my memory bank of movies to check out. Well, I don't want your thoughts on the movie because people can listen to that with WH Park on the cafe. But what was the movie-going experience like for you? This was a movie you actually saw twice.
I did, yeah. I've been watching all of these twice just, to get a better sense of it before doing these reviews. Excuse me. With WH. So, it was, the first time was like an opening night viewing, and so it was quite crowded. But I felt safe. They're checking vaccination for everybody. At least they should be. So I felt relatively fine. Second viewing was like completely empty, because it was a matinee. So it feels kind of like we're back to normal for the most part.
Well, that's nice. I want to get to a movie at some point. I think the packed theater, it's not my jam at this stage of my of the pandemic, but I would like to go to a movie where it's this matinee idea. That's
how about Spider-Man in December with me and WH?
Possible. I won't fully commit.
The man's not committing, even though I put him on the spot. But okay.
Well, I have multiple people to think of as I am deciding upon all this. When does Spider-Man come out? Like mid-December?
Something like that. Yeah, around the holidays.
All right. Are you excited for it?
Oh, very. Absolutely. Trying to avoid spoilers, trying to avoid these leaks.
What spoilers are out there? Like people have seen it?
No, just like, like a lot of speculation about whether or not exactly Tobey Maguire or Andrew Garfield are in it. And I think the chances are high that they are, but it has not been officially acknowledged yet.
Was the Jameson reveal, was that completely out of left field? Was there speculation about that one at the end of the...
I saw nothing. Yeah, that to me was a really well-guarded secret at the end of that last film.
Yeah, I can't remember if I watched that one on opening night, but it was very close because when Jameson was revealed, whole theater went nuts. So it seemed like it was a genuine surprise, like the big, like stunned reaction, and then people cheering. It was a very cool scene. I like when they can pull those off.
Yeah, with this upcoming one, it's very much like a CM Punk situation where everybody, I think, kind of knows and kind of expects it, but they have not officially acknowledged it yet. And I like that.
That's good because you get the anticipation and there's still the doubt of, well, we don't know for sure. And then when you get it, it feels like you've had the chance to really think about it and want it, and then they deliver it.
Totally, yeah. It's incredibly ambitious, for a company as big as Marvel. And we're talking a multi-million-dollar production here, to try to keep a secret as potentially large as something like this. But we're nearing the finish line, and depending on how much you read, maybe you'll be well protected.
Well, I will try and tap into my my Marvel contacts. We'll see what we can find. Actually, okay. No lie, there's a guy I went to high school with that has worked on many of the Marvel films in like the some kind of like graphic CGI capacity. Like it's a significant thing that a friend of mine still keeps in touch with him. So anyway,
cool.
That's it.
All right.
Before we get into the news, I just want to say that between the segment on Rampage, that incredible Players Tribune piece, and then this Road to Full Gear piece that they put up last night, AEW did, this Eddie Kingston match with CM Punk feels like it's almost the main event on Saturday. I think it's been the most incredible, like, several day build, and that Eddie Kingston feels as popular as he has ever been in AEW, and by default, his entire career.
Yeah, no doubt. I have not seen the Road to yet. But
it's just the opening. I think it's just like a preview of what's to come with the countdown special, but it's an incredibly well done, like 3 minutes of Eddie Kingston off the top. That I'm sure you will get a lot of enjoyment out of.
When coming off of Tony Khan's draft of this card, Kingston wasn't even penciled in. That was supposed to be a Wardlow match. Yeah. So him coming in here last minute, I mean, for me, that Players Tribune article, which I just finally read today, was captivating to say the least, emotional to say the least, and I think tells you exactly, like, you can write a movie about this man and his rise to just such an unlikely spot here, about to probably have the biggest match of his entire career. So all eyes are on him, and hopefully he has a great match with Punk.
It's a big match, very big match on Saturday. Let's start off with Raw from Monday night. So this was a show that, for the first 2 hours, it was kind of like right in line with what the show has been doing most weeks against football. And then they experienced a total collapse in the third hour. So the show did 1,654,000 in hour one, 1,621,000 in hour two. Very similar. And then it dropped to 1,373,000 viewers in the third hour and a 0.34 in the demo for hour three. So what do these numbers mean? Of the data that is out there, this would be the third lowest viewership for any Raw and the second lowest 18 to 49 number ever, because the show finished with a 0.40 in the demo and 1,549,000 viewers. But it was this third hour just tanking of the audience. And yes, they were going up against the Steelers and Bears, which you are talking about 12 million viewers, but they have faced similar and higher NFL competition on Monday nights this season. It just seemed to be like this was a significant amount of their audience that was just done after 2 hours. Like women 18 to 34 dropped 42% in the third hour. Women 18 to 49 dropped 30% in the third hour. And their overall 18 to 49 demo fell 21% in that last hour. So, whatever it was, hour three was not very enticing on Monday night.
Yeah, without really knowing about perhaps how special this football game might have been, it's really the only explanation I can possibly see about, another show siphoning this audience this dramatically at 10 o'clock hour. But beyond that, I mean, if you're just looking at the wrestling card itself, perhaps this doesn't really reflect very well on Seth Rollins and Kevin Owens, sad to say. Do you put any blame on their main event on Monday?
I mean, you have to look at, like, I would be curious to see when the sizable drop in hour three occurred, when we break it down. Owens and Rollins, pretty much when they walked out to the ring around 10:25, you realize, okay, they're eating up the remainder of this show. What was that? The tipping point? I mean, I'm really kind of just stretching for a rationale behind it. One thing is, on Raw Monday night, it was a lot of long matches in the lead up to that third hour where you were getting another very long match at the end. And maybe this was just a significant portion of your audience that was just spent by the end of this. NFL plays a factor, but I can't say that's completely, because we've seen big games this year go against Raw and not had this kind of bleeding in the third hour. And maybe this is just a 1 week anomaly, and next week they structure the show somewhat differently, or it's just this turns out to be a 1 week thing. But it was a very, very dramatic drop on Monday night. And I mean, you have to look at, the show was built around Owens and Rollins. So I think you do have to look at that.
I mean, I personally hope it doesn't reflect poorly on Kevin Owens, who I think has been tremendous in the role. And, this is his first big, I would say, main event role in quite some time, it feels. And I would hate to see a story get cut short, out of panic for maybe numbers like this.
I don't think you should ever be overreactive to 1 week. If it's a trend, if it's a pattern, they are, very much responsive at times to, patterns and such. But for 1 week, I'd be curious where they fall next week. But I mean, one of the reasons this is kind of being more focused on, not just the historical nature of some of these numbers in comparison to others, but the third hour drop, it's not been what it used to be. It's kind of like leveled off, where there's still a bit of that decline, but nothing like this. In Canada, the show did 159,000 viewers, so they were actually up 10% in Canada. So maybe that's a in their cap. I mean, maybe you just got to relocate to Canada. NXT 2.0 on Tuesday night, they made the official announcement of War Games on Sunday, December the 5th. However, no takeover branding attached to this. It's just being marketed as NXT War Games.
Interesting. Yes. NXT War Games rather than takeover. So
what is the War Games match, Wai? Because I'm watching this program every week and I don't know what is being this feels like one where we're deciding to do War Games and now we got to make the match.
It very well could be. I mean, they kind of run into that every single year, don't they? You know, it's become a yearly tradition for NXT. I feel like it would be a safe bet to think about somebody like Braun Breaker possibly leading one of the teams. Maybe Ciampa on the other side if they want to continue that. But, you know, it's another chance for them to put that profile, that spotlight, and to throw into the deep end some of this very inexperienced talent. So
I personally, just watching the show, it's not been a storyline of kind of the old guard versus the new guard. But to me, if you want to get several stories coming out of this and achieve several factors, including having a very, as strong a match as you can, the idea of putting your Ciampa, Garganos, O'Reilly, and throwing a Dunn on one side, and then on the other, you've got your Braun Breaker, Carmelo Hayes, Von Wagner, and I think you'd get a better match. And you can also do...
You can do the story, but there's no chance in hell this audience would not cheer for the established guard. We've seen this. We've seen this in WCW. And if your ultimate goal is to try to endear the audience to a Braun Breaker or a Carmelo Hayes, I mean, I don't know if that would be the best way to do it.
Well, you would be running with that. And the other question, Wai, is, we do know about Gargano's contract status that... you would think that he at least goes through this show, even though it technically takes place 2 days after his deal's up on December 3rd.
Yeah, and if you're NXT, if you're the WWE, do you even put, you know what, they did tease like a Gargano Ciampa brief reunion, so I could see him like being on the same team, on the same side as a Tommaso Ciampa, but like
something with Carmelo Hayes that they're going in that direction with Gargano.
In the case of like Kyle O'Reilly, I mean, that's a really interesting one. I wonder if he even finds himself in a prime main event spot like that, or if he is on the, like doing something otherwise on a mid-card match with Von Wagner.
Yeah, they're
Von Wagner. Jeez.
The partners that are still trying to find their chemistry together, but I mean, they're teasing those two kind of going for the tag titles as well. So they are teasing a lot of programs. Dakota Kai and Raquel, they're obviously going to pump out another match between them with Cora Jade thrown into the mix. But I apologize.
Kaylee Ray, it looks like maybe being involved somehow with Mandy Rose and Toxic Attraction, or at least that seemed to be the brief indication during the walkout.
She had a nice match with Saray. It wasn't the longest match, but I feel Saray just a victim of timing. She just seems that she doesn't have a role on this show and was kind of just there to put over Kaylee Ray.
Yeah. I mean, the Japanese talent in the WWE system right now, I find is an interesting study, because there was a time many years ago where like a Kairi Sane can come in, and Io Shirai can come in, and an Asuka can come in, and maybe not so much Io Shirai, but like a Shinsuke Nakamura, they'd come in and that they would have a place on the main roster. In the current context of what the WWE is, what the NXT is, I mean, look at Io Shirai. She's still in NXT. If she was going to be in the main roster, I think they would have taken her by now. And what does that mean for people like a Kushida? What does that mean for, the person who's next in line, like a Saray?
What it means is that Kushida and Ikemen Jiro have united with the words, "You're Japanese, I'm Japanese." Writes itself, doesn't it?
Yeah. Jacket time is the end result. So,
yes.
I don't know. Like with so many of these terrible angles, like even like a Karrion Kross or like a Bearcat, the silver lining is that, okay, well, at least they're getting TV time right now. So there's that.
Io Shirai, you're gonna be iOS. You're going to be an app developer that messes up my phone.
iOS. That's fucking brilliant. Oh, man. And then we can get Android and iPad.
Finally. iPad, Android, and iOS. Unbelievable. I will tell you, even in a minute 20 or however long that match went, dude, Elektra Lopez she has a long way to go.
Yeah, it surprises me because, like, I feel like I've seen her in matches in the past where she looked better, but maybe I'm mistaken at this point. They are giving her a whole lot, though. They're giving her, I mean, she feels like the leader of Legado.
She's the de facto leader. I don't think Santos was even on the show last night. She was very much presented as the leader of Legado del Fantasma.
Escobar hasn't been seen since the Swerve match, so yeah. I don't know what's up with that. But they are choosing to tell a very different type of story with her, and Zion Quinn, who continues to be involved in, he's definitely getting a push, and I don't think in the way that many of us expected when we first saw Zion Quinn.
Yeah, I mean, if ever there was kind of an exclamation point on how William Regal has been phased out in this new era, I mean, his trademark line of declaring war games, I mean, they did not go with that on Tuesday night.
No. Did they go with anything?
I mean, they ran a commercial and that was it. But typically you get William Regal coming out there and declaring war games.
Yeah.
None of that.
Instead, it seems like we're getting a version of West Side Story with Zion Quinn and Elektra Lopez here. So maybe I declare...
Maybe a musical at War Games. Yes.
Sure. Perhaps. Any other highlights to speak of from the show?
Dude, there weren't a whole lot. Like, seriously, next week, your reason to come back next week is Dexter Lumis against Tony D'Angelo and a poker showdown between Duke Hudson and Cameron Grimes. I mean,
it's amazing that they're going so deep into this poker thing with this guy. Like,
and I like Duke Hudson. I think he's got like a lot of charisma, but it's just such a tough character for him to try and make anything out of.
Yeah, I don't doubt, like, you know, they workshopped this with him, and he evidently probably loves poker, but this is the type of thing that you should be hiding from
what are your interests? Well, let me think about that for a minute.
Yeah. You know, chess, I would say, at least is a bit more cerebral, and I think a bit more applicable to fighting, but fuck, how do you craft a storyline out of poker? So we're getting a big poker showdown. And last thing here, what do you think of Boa's makeover?
Oh, God. Yeah, he's got this now debilitating nerve hold that he used on Joe Gacy. I will say one thing that I'm seeing in the case of Joe Gacy, with Duke Hudson to a degree, and I'll add Boa into this as well, is that they introduce these characters that at first blush, you are like, okay, I can see the direction of this character. And by week 3 or 4... it's just like there isn't a whole lot there. That's where I am with Joe Gacy. That's where I'm at with Duke Hudson. And I think this Boa thing, it's the same. Like it feels very like with the cheap lighting effects that they did. It just felt very low rent. It just did not feel like I felt like I was watching like some, you know, haunted house that you walk into down the street.
I think they're trying really hard to make Boa work. They're trying really hard to, you know, create this kind of male star for their Chinese market. And unfortunately, from what I have seen, the man just does not have the ability to pull off a gimmick like this. I certainly don't buy him being possessed in ring. I think he still has a long way to go. And I personally can't really see it working in the main roster. But you know what? They have people less talented and less ready than Boa, you know, doing stuff on the main roster. So if they choose to commit, there's a chance that it can work. And at least for the moment, they are choosing to commit to Boa.
This next story was reported by Fightful Select on Tuesday, and there appears to be a bit of a standoff with the team at UpUpDownDown and WWE regarding Xavier Woods. The site reports that WWE has always owned UpUpDownDown, but in this agreement, it sounds like Woods, whatever is being made, goes towards his downside, and that they're all kind of standing up so that Woods can make some more out of this thing that has grown.
Let me kind of step in. I don't know if the report states that what the channel is making is going to his downside. I got the sense from reading the report, it's that his duties with UpUpDownDown and G4 are a part of his downside guarantee, meaning I don't know if he necessarily gets anything more for doing those things.
Right. I mean, it states here, UpUpDownDown is all applied towards his downside guarantee, which would, be going against that. So, I mean, it's just an interesting kind of power play here of, somebody that has had an enormous impact on this area of their gaming division. It's growing into, several million subscribers on its channel, and what kind of leverage an Xavier Woods has to push that he is deserving more of this. And I think that you could probably find many examples of this in the company where it's stuff that, am I being appropriately compensated for my time, for things that I have to do above and beyond what my contract necessarily calls for? Like, these are people that are constantly doing all of this network programming. At least they were in the past era. And it just seems like a lot of stuff that just kind of falls under the umbrella of your contract and what you're able to be compensated for that.
I have to say, I think it's a pretty ballsy move from Woods, to simply take a stand.
And this team as well, that clearly appear to be standing by him.
Mm-hmm. To take a stand against your employer, to say, hey, unless you help renegotiate this deal, I'm not giving you anything else. Like, not often do you hear about people, quote unquote, taking their ball and going home. And especially somebody who is in a pushed role like Xavier Woods, having just won King of the Ring and being pushed as such. So I think it tells you how confident he is that, or how confident he is that he is owed something here, that he's inadequately being compensated for. And tells you how important he is. There is no up, down, down with Xavier Woods. And beyond, having the roster behind his side, he has now the public very much behind this side as well. So I think he's operating from a position of leverage, to demand something that is fair for him. It is pretty crazy to hear that even the G4 stuff he's not necessarily making, if the report is accurate, of course, that even the G4 stuff that he's doing, he's not gaining anything extra from.
Now, this also coincides with the WWE's Superstar Gaming Series returning on Thursday night. There's going to be a stream on their YouTube channel at 7 Eastern hosted by Xavier Woods, and it's going to feature other talent such as Big E, Bayley, Samoa Joe, which appears to be the only place in WWE you can see Samoa Joe these days, and Liv Morgan playing on the WWE team in the gaming competition that will face a team comprising of T-Pain, Mary Takahashi, and streamers Grand Pooh Bear and The Completionist. All favorite gaming follows of mine, Wai. If you can tell that I'm really on top of the gaming industry.
It's a whole nother side of pop culture that I'm not that privy to, honestly, but I think the WWE should be, incredibly thankful that they have somebody who's this connected, because this is their connection to a younger fan base who may not otherwise give a shit about pro wrestling at all. So pay the man.
And AEW tonight, final Dynamite before the pay-per-view on Saturday. So this is the updated lineup. We've got a contract signing between Kenny Omega and Hangman Page. Bryan Danielson taking on Rocky Romero. Dax Harwood versus Pac. 6-woman tag, Dr. Britt Baker, Rebel, and Jamie Hayter taking on Ty Conti, Anna Jay, and Thunder Rosa. Dante Martin and Leo Rush versus Matt Sydal and Lee Moriarty. And Tony Schiavone will speak with the Inner Circle in Indianapolis, Indiana tonight.
Mm-hmm. Looks like a solid lineup. This is the go-home show. And
does it feel like a big lineup to you?
I would say it feels pretty standard to me, nothing spectacular, but this is also right before a pay-per-view, so I don't know if they need to. Do you have any sort of a prediction, for ratings? Like, do you see anything out of the norm this week?
How about this? If we look at last week's Dynamite, they're coming off a show that did, and this was not against World Series competition either, just for context. They did 878,000 viewers last week and a .33. I don't see them beating Raw this week, which did the .40, which is on the lower end for Raw. I think it's going to be in the ballpark of what they did last week. I don't see this week's being a giant return to your .40 pluses that they had been experiencing over the last while.
Yeah, I see nothing about this lineup that, if you're somebody who is choosing to watch Dynamite on DVR or through recaps online afterwards, I don't see much incentive for somebody to go out of their way to watch this one, like, some of the higher profile Dynamites of the past. Next week, of course, will be a lot more interesting coming off of Full Gear.
That's right. Last pay-per-view, they had a tremendous number in Cincinnati coming off of that show. And I think it'll be very interesting, way with all of the New Japan talent that's over here. Are we going to see any of this New Japan talent make its way to AEW over the next week or two?
Yeah, or vice versa.
All right. Well, there you go. We're going to be live tonight at 10:15 Eastern Time with Rewind to Dynamite, and we will go through everything that happens on tonight's episode. And then, maybe in the next day or two, you can catch Bryan Danielson's return to the Bella's podcast, which means they dusted off Bella Brains for this.
Yes, week. I love Bella Brains. Yes. Awesome. Yeah. Are you? Is there something newsworthy about this appearance, or no? Did you just find out?
Nothing. Like I skimmed through it. It was nothing earth shattering. He talked about his decision making of going to AEW. That it was a very difficult decision for him to make, and that he takes a lot longer to decide things. And Brie was kind of wanting him to make this decision while leaving him to make it. And then he said, you know what, maybe I don't even want to sign with a company. Maybe I'm just going to go and do one-offs here and there. But then he finally made the decision about AEW. So it was a little bit into that, but I wouldn't say it was a heavy, intensive interview. It's actually, as we speak, he's on Ariel Helwani's show. So I imagine that'll be a interesting chat as well, going over probably lots of different topics.
Did the Bellas talk about being on The Bachelorette at all this week?
No, there was no mention. At least I have not heard all of it, but I don't know if there was any Bachelorette discussion. But they did talk about Bryan and Brie. They talked about their sex life. They talked about book recommendations. I mean, all the things you'd expect with Danielson on the show.
Oh, lovely. I'm going to load that right up.
All right. Okay, that's all for us. Thank you to everybody for tuning in. We are here each day with your post-daily news updates at youtube.com/postwrestling. If you are not subscribed yet, don't be caught unsubscribed. You don't want to be part of the outcasts out there. So subscribe if you want to listen to us in audio form, which means you can take us on your phone wherever you want without concerning your data issues. Patreon.com/postwrestling is where you can go. And we're back tonight with Rewind to Dynamite. Tomorrow on the news update, Way will be out, but Nate Milton will be in to chat with me about all of the headlines, and we'll take a look at what's coming up this weekend. So, Way, enjoy your afternoon, and we'll speak in a few hours.